Good morning, or good afternoon, wherever you may be, or good evening, or good night. This is Jen at JensArtyInclinations, a place to create, share, and play.
Well, some days we just need something really, really simple that doesn't tax the brain. You know, when you get to your table and I tried to put the glue on and I didn't realise I had the lid still on? That's what that was all about. Pretty funny. So that just shows you this particular day was just one of those days where I really wasn't thinking. I just went to my desk. I had a couple of off-cut sort of scraps and I just started doing stuff. So what I'm doing here is some really, really simple journal cards. They're really nice and thin because they're just paper on paper, but robust enough to last quite nicely. So all I'm doing is a bit of coffee dyed paper I had on the desk. Again, these were just some pieces I cut down. Stuck them onto the off-cut scraps I had that were a bit bigger, and then that provided a background for the front of a journal card. So I just do this to, a few different pieces. I think I did 3 in the end, and then we cut them down. The next one I used a glue stick. Ideally, that's the best way to laminate onto another sheet of paper. However, you can see that when I used my art glitter glue, I just used a squidgy that I had, which was an art squidgy, but I mean, you could use a kitchen spatula, that you use to scrape bowls. You can use all sorts of different things. But yeah, that little squidgy is great for just spreading out the glue to make it nice and smooth and even. Otherwise, I do find my art glitter glue leaves lines, which I don't like. Again, kept it really simple. I didn't bother even getting out the guillotine or anything. I just used my ruler to tear it down. There are my scrap bits off the edge. And I just teared all around, tore all around the edges. I guess I was tearing around. And then, just to get the journaling spot on the back, exactly the same as the image on the front. And voila. Now, once I'd torn them down to size, I then kind of had a little look and thought about what size I wanted to have each of these journaling cards. Now, when they are a little bit thinner like this is just like a really light cardstock weight. But when they are thinner like this, you are best to put them down under something heavy. And then that way you'll actually get them, lying flat. So what I am doing here just off screen to the left is I'm putting them under a brick that I've covered with wrapping paper, and that just helps flatten them out. And then once you finish them off, just put them all under and you'll find that they come out beautifully and you don't get them all curling up. There we are. Now, next off, rounding my corners. Great way to just make them look a little bit finished. You might like the corners not rounded. Remember, you don't need a corner rounder. If you just get like a big old dinner plate or some kind of bowl or something round, or the bottom of your glue bottle, you stick that on the edge, you get a little pencil and you trace that curve around the edge, and then you get a pair of scissors or a Stanley knife and you cut around it and you've got rounded corners. So you don't actually need all the fancy tools. It's just that, they're fun. So I like them, but they do make it a lot quicker.
All right, now in the background there, I've just been decorating away. There's a little word on the bottom, and I did a little fussy cut just with a strip of paper. Now I'm just popping a tab on top. Oh, and I did ink around the edges, but, I always tend to do that. Now, on top there, it's just a little scrap of calico that I'm stapling on. Quite like that rustic edge. And then popping some stamps on just kind of helped focus in. I found this map page a bit yellow, so I just wanted to sort of rustic it up a bit, make it a bit rougher. And voila, that's the first one. Second one, fussy cut again. Popped a little bit of washi tape over it. I did put some glue under that because I never quite trust that washi tape is going to stick. It is meant to come off. Now, on the back of all of them, I did this kind of stamping. So just did some little features around each of the journal cards that I did, and I quite like that. It just gives you a bit more of an indication that you could write on it. It's not a complete border, just a partial one. So here we go, dragonfly there, butterfly on the bottom, stapling the tab on top, and there we go, that's number 2. So that's the first style I did, all worked out fine. On the second one, I just did a bit of calico. I had another little scrap, so I tore it in half and I just stuck it on the top of each of these. Then I did my stamping around the back, and I also did a bit of stamping on the front. And that's because, you guessed it, I am sewing around them. So I love a bit of sewing on a journal card. If you've watched me for long enough, I love adding sewing to paper. There's something quite wonderful. So there they are. That's sort of all the background bits so that the sewing would go over it, and I wasn't trying to get around that. Then I just added some Tim Holtz paper dolls with a saying, and that's those finished. So there's the first one, and then the second one, same thing, bit of a saying. I had him up a bit higher, so I popped a bit of calico under his shoes just so he had something to sit on, and then I popped a little saying onto that too. So there we are, just pressing him down, and you'll see in a moment, just finishing off with my journey at the bottom. So there's the second couple. These seriously are very, very quick, but you can do a whole heap of laminating your sheets together, so that you've got journal space on the back of whatever you're using as your background or your picture, and just stash them so that next time you're doing a journal book, you can just grab out some and then decorate them to go with that book. I've tried to make these fairly generic. Now on the back of this, I put the stamp across the bottom because this is actually a little bit of, what do you call that, like balsa wood. So that way, if someone writes on the back, they're going to be able to write on a smooth surface. And with these ones, I decided I'd just put a ribbon through the top. So look, all of these are so easy. They're kind of mind-numbing. If they don't work out, it's actually not that big a deal because they're all just from scraps. I could even cut the sayings back off if I didn't want to print them out again. But yeah, not a lot is wasted. So they're kind of nice to have a journal card to play when you just want something mind-numbing or you want to try out a new technique. Great way to try it out on journal cards, rather than trying it out directly in a whole big book. In fact, when I first used to do my journal pages, I used to actually do them on a separate sheet and then paste that into the book because I was too scared to do it straight into the book. But here they all are finished. So I'll just show you each of them. You know what? The last ones I did are my favourites. So the ones with the flower backing. I didn't think that they could be so interesting with nothing more than just words on them. That's all that's on them, and just a tie at the top. Pretty cool. Anyway, you take care, and I'll see you all again real soon. I'd love it if you could leave me a comment below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed what you saw today. And of course, please subscribe if you haven't already. I will see you next time. And in the meantime, keep creating. Enjoy!